What up, dude, bro? Spider Avenger Miller. Today I'm looking at the Spaz 12 replica. Um, this thing is the most realistic blaster I have ever gotten my hands on, and to a scary degree. Like, do not walk outside with this, otherwise you will get dropped. But I guess we can start with an external overview, starting up at the front. There's no instruct barrel logo. This isn't even a Nerf or Dart Zone branded blaster, but it does come with a little orange tip, which I highly recommend you keep on this if you're ever to transport it, because this thing is very realistic to a dangerous degree. I'm just keeping it off just because it looks cooler that way. Down here we do have the priming handle to prime. You do that. And the prime stroke, it's not entirely smooth, but it's as smooth as it can be, but it's doing a lot more mechanically inside because it's racking a shell, which will also be the gimmick, but you can also prime that as many times as you want, so that's always a good thing. Up above, we do have the Spaz 12 iron sight, which corresponds with its front sight. And back here we do have the chamber, but we also have a little peg that you can choose whether or not to screw on or off. But this just kind of like helps like with cool realism. Like, say, if you don't want to use the pump action priming handle, you can just do a bolt like that. But it's a little difficult to do. I've been finding it more easy to go like that. So yeah. And then down below, we actually do have a swivel safety, which is actually on the Spaz. So in this configuration, I cannot pull the trigger, flick it forward, and I can't pull the trigger. And down to the trigger pull is pretty nice, and the blaster does not have slam fire, but it also does not have a trigger lock, so you can deprime the blaster if you want to, but it also has a cool system to where you can prime it back, but you pull the trigger, the breech locks forward, and that's a really cool system. And now to the loading port. So this is actually fed like an actual realistic shotgun. So you get your shells, and as I just dropped one, and these shells are proprietary. You must use the shells in order to fire the blaster. It does not work without the shells, and they come with these weird 3/4 length darts. But thankfully, the shells are compatible with standard half-length darts if you want to use those. They don't fire the best, but they're a good option if you can't find these. But you can, of course, cut down your Nerf Elite darts to match that size. And it actually does work with a round that I've never talked about in this channel, a 50 caliber foam paintball, which is just a very tiny ravel round. So I thought that was kind of cool, but it's just cooler to use the shells like this. So you just feed them in like that, and the capacity of the tube is 6 rounds, or 6 shells. And you can just simply load like that, and it's a very realistic system. And one thing that I find cool is if you 3-gun, you could double and probably even quad if you really wanted to, if your hands are that big. It's a little difficult, though, and you can definitely feel like a little bit of pressure. But then, of course, once you have your shells in, you can just rack that, and then when you fire it again, the shell ejects, which is so cool. Shell ejection is awesome, and you can just keep repeating that, and it aggressively flings out the shell like nobody's business. And I just failed a primer right there. And then I think my favorite way to eject the shell is like that, and they eject hard. And now back to the grip. The grip is a very realistic replica, and it feels really good. Like, I actually love this grip. Up above, we do have a sling attachment point. And now back to the stock. This is a very, like I said, a very realistic Spaz 12 replica. So you have this button right here. You press that, and you could raise the stock over, and you have a little button up here, which folds in the butt plate, and then, of course, it slams in right there. The advantage of a folding stock is to kind of decrease the weight of the blaster to make it a lot lighter. And in this case, it can help you if you want to hip fire a lot, which is always a fun thing. And then, of course, to release the stock, if you're wanting to, you just flick that, make sure this is pressed down, press the button, and it's good. And the stock length is really good, especially if you're a grown-sized adult. And the feeling is very nice. It's a very, actually surprisingly stable stock. And a little thing that this does come with is it does come with this arm hook. On the Spaz 12, the arm hook was to kind of help you for one-handed firing, because this is a 12 gauge autoloader, which means that you could just pull the trigger and it fires. Unlike most, because but of course this is a Nerf blaster, so you're permitted to just, instead of just pulling the trigger and a shot gets fired. Oh no, I forgot the Picatinny rail. Sorry. But the advantage of this hook was you could hook your right arm into it so that you could one-hand wield this. And of course, this has no kind of real meaning. Plus, I think it personally looks stupid. So I've been keeping it off my spas. But that is an external overview of this massive beast. And now I will show you this thing firing. Firing included elite style darts. Now firing the suction cup ammo. Well, something I forgot to show off in the little accessories were these glasses. They're very uncomfortable to wear and they're scratched. So that was not something I was expecting to pay $120 for. Now to the blaster. Firing it was actually pretty fun. Like, the Spaz 12 is one of my favorite shotguns ever, and now that I have an actual model, it just feels really, really cool. Just flipping out your stock, just having that epic feeling of just feeling like you're the Terminator, which, fun fact, before Terminator ever got his hands on this, it was actually a Spaz 12 that he bought in the gun shop. Pretty sure y'all remember that scene. But, overall, it's a very fun blaster. And now, chronograph results, the data with these included darts, I believe, averaged around 70, 75, which is actually pretty good for a prop toy. And I believe with half-length darts, it got around 50s. And then the, whatever they're called, 50 caliber foam paintballs, those got about around 50, sometimes 80, but they were pretty inconsistent. But that is all the objective information I can provide on this blaster. Not in my personal opinion. Overall, it is a very cool replica. It is a very solid piece of work. It's got some really great craft in it. It feels amazing to just prime that back and to just have that slide forward. It feels amazing. Like, it's a very fun blaster to play with, but it's a little finicky from time to time. Now, don't get me wrong. Having the feeling of just loading shells in there, racking it, and then just ejecting it is very cool. But as you saw in the firing demo, it was a little bit finicky. Say, like, if I primed, like, too soft, the shell would just get, like, partially stuck in there, or you actually saw 2 shells actually came out by accident, which was pretty hilarious. But the way that I heard this described is you actually have to really work it to actually make it work properly. And I have had quite a few issues with this magazine tube, to the point to where sometimes shells wouldn't work properly. So I'd have to get a rod, shove it through this little hole, which I guess works as a jamming rod thing, but I had to use just a needle for that. You know, like one of those little knitting needles. But that was a little frustrating. And like I said, priming it doesn't always work sometimes. But even with those issues, it still worked better than I thought it was going to. Had a few minor hiccups here and there, but all these things are going to have minor hiccups. I mean, it's just loads of fun to shoot this thing. Now to the question, to buy or not to buy. If you're looking for a performance-based blaster, I would not recommend this one. This is definitely for prop people. I don't even think a war would legally allow you to field this, because this is a literal, like, replica of a real-life shotgun that 20 years ago used to be illegal. But It's a very solid piece, but it's pretty much like shell ejecting is fun, but it's also time consuming. And to this date, there's only one shell ejecting shotgun that I know of that is honestly the perfect one for this occasion, and that is the Colonel Wasp Firefly, which is a shell ejecting shotgun that can actually shoot a vast variety of different ammo, half-length darts, 50 caliber foam paintballs, micro darts, anything. And it's overall a better shotgun. This is just for if you're like wanting a replica, but the reason why I can't really recommend you get this is because one, it's expensive, but also it is realistic. Like I said, do not walk outside with anything like this. I'm especially something like this because these are both realistic looking guns, and anyone sees you with them, you are going to get either one in trouble, but also in some places you can get shot. So be very cautious if you do purchase this, just because it's a great piece of work, but it is a pain to always conceal, because if a cop sees you with this, you are going to get questioned, either shot, or in serious trouble for having something that looks like this, which is why I recommended, if you have one of these, please keep the orange tip on, because at least this indicates that this is a toy. But without it, it can be mistaken as a real Spaz 12, which, one, is cool, but also very, very dangerous. But overall opinion is good. I'm going to end it with there. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. Much love, Sean, and stay tactical.
Now buy a real one.